By the way, my name's not James Craig Rodriguez. That's because Rufus Sylvester Lynch put that out there on me. I said, how'd you find out my middle name? Well, I came from Fathers and Families Coalition of America. I came by plane, train, Uber, and taxi. All right, so today, Rufus asked me to do a summation. I thought it was very good, but I was gonna go one way. I'm gonna give you guys a couple of links so you can go follow the policy, because policy drives funding. I'm gonna give you a couple of House resolutions to follow and some actual funding that there are about $23, $30 million funded, but maybe that's one thing that you as a group come together. But before doing that, and I'm not gonna do a shameless plug for our national conference, but the people who stayed here, I will make sure that you can take $100 off your conference fees if you end up going to LA. Because I feel like if you stayed, you should get something. One quick thing. I love what Bill said about corporation. One of our affiliates in Australia is doing this. They don't work in the communities, get their resources. They work in employers, and all the employers are funding them. It's called Win-Win Parenting Incorporated. So I will send you Dr. Rosina McAlpine's information, and she's covering the whole nation of Australia and going into other nations as well. And if they can do it, we can do it. So there's a model where you can work with corporate America. I listened to that. I thought that was interesting. Our New Jersey affiliate was here as well, UIH family. If you ever go there, I got a chance to go visit them. The first day I went there was blood splattered all over the front door. I realized I was Trenton. I'm originally from the Bronx. I'm like, uh-oh, I bet. Take off your suit. You cut the mic on me? Okay. That's okay, I don't. Policy drives practice, policy drives funding. So Danny K. Davis has a brand new policy on working with incarcerated parents with their children in the foster care system. And it will be a national demonstration grant that will be released soon. Here's the gimmick, or the catch. Child welfare must work with Department of Justice, which means practitioners are going to be the ones that they're going to look to go be engaged with fathers within the juvenile justice system, because you know there's some juvenile justice children that are also fathers. You know that the majority of foster care boys have children 800 times more than their peers that are just teenagers not in foster care placement, and you know they're 80% more likely to go to prison. So child welfare system needs to improve. One of the areas that he thought that would happen is engaging fathers, because he does care about the lives of fathers in their children's life. So I think House Resolution 623 is critical for you. Here's the thing, Congressman Davis came on, I believe it was in July, before I went, when was Congressional Black Caucus? So I'm looking at
last month.
Was last month, September?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta remember where I was at. So even when I was in speaking at the Congressional Black Caucus in September, it was brought up again. States have to have a plan to go after that money. So you can't just know about the Family First Prevention Act and think, oh, well, the money's gonna trickle down. It's guaranteed money, and it's not a grant that you have to apply for. It's a 50% match. If the state of, or Commonwealth, I forgot,
Yeah.
Forgive me for I've sinned. If the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania spends $100 on services for children in the child welfare system, they're going to give you $50, non-competitive, if it's in those areas. They already know that there's no one doing that much on fatherhood and foster care. So, if you care about children for the future, and you really want to do something proactive on fatherhood, then go get that act and get your state together. There's only 4 states right now that have a team. West Virginia, but we're not in West Virginia. Utah. I did not know that Utah was going to be progressive on that. That really blew me away. Like, what is going on in Utah? I'm going to start drinking Pepsi. And Oregon, and I forgot the last state. But what I'm trying to say is states that traditionally don't go after the resources. So why not this Commonwealth go for it? Now, I'm going to say something else too, and I'm going to go back because Bill asked me how did we start Fathers and Families Coalition of America. It was never after money. It was after a need and a purpose. So in 1996, when we all came together, we had already been established in 1994 as grassroots through agencies that came together and worked, because I had an idea, why are we training all of our Head Start staff that need the training? Why aren't we all working together to train each other and help each other? It just makes logical sense. By 1996, 2 years later, we were ready to receive the first ever TANF fatherhood funding. Not for a little bit, but over $1 million a year. You have to prepare yourself. So if you want to get that Family First Act, and you go onto our website, October 2019 is the release of the money. Don't wait another year. It'll be too late. You should already be at your state, we're near the state capitol, right? So there's already commissioners in this Commonwealth, right? You have legislators here, right? Ask your legislator, have they started a Child Welfare Family First Act committee? And if not, force them to create one. Because what will happen is, like in the state that I lived in Arizona, they don't have to take the money, but the money will never come to the state. Then someone's going to sue the state for not being proactive for going after the money. So be in advance on that. So I want to share that with you guys because I felt like that was very, very something important. I really did love what sorry, Steamboat Rufus and Chaka Khan. But anyways, Dr. Fagan mentioned about the national study. Well, what he didn't mention was that NIH CDC study that was released. If you saw about the interactions of fathers, it's something that you could be doing proactively because there's two systems that have been the biggest barriers that goes back to the Family First Act, back to what Congressman Davis is House Resolution 623. I did say that, right? Because there's money tied to it. Because if I was her right now, I'd be like, you know what, we got to go out to that 623. I don't know what James is talking about, but I'm going to call Congressman Davis to make sure we get it in Ohio. Because this is the title of the law is cracking me up because it's bipartisan. Recognize the importance of providing services to children of incarcerated parents. So incarcerated parents, child welfare. Black fathers are the most involved fathers up until after age 5. That's what that study relays. So why are black fathers dropped and gone afterwards? Two systems. So why don't you also look at from a systemic, or as Dr. Lynch is, because he's a macro policy social worker, looking at the macro, and which would be the system piece, and go get the legislation change. All your beautiful passion, which you need to persevere, won't change unless you can go to those policymakers to start building up legislation to go forward. Because I do agree with my Brooklynite over here, because she said, she turned around and said, don't ever forget I'm from Brooklyn. But Dr. Pearson's correct. We ran a statewide TANF fatherhood program for 8 years. So it's possible. Every single state should have a TANF fatherhood program based on its TANF caseload population to the child that it's connected to. Whether the parent's with them or not, it's irrelevant. It's possible. You don't need OFA that has, what, 15 grantees? Not even 20, 30? But that's 39 grantees. Last time I checked, we got yeah. Every state. Now, I got some friends who run some of those fatherhood programs. They probably would beat me up and leave me somewhere in between Mechanicsburg, wherever my Uber driver was at. But what I'm saying is every state has that capacity already. But they are not going to do it unless you go to where? Policy. Policy drives practice. So that's the other thing that I want to mention as one of my summations. The last couple little things, that grandparents raising grandchildren, Arizona was one of the first states to ever put a law in place for it, which also drives money. Because once they put it together, there was a lady that was sitting here, her name was Carlos Williams. She may or may not reply to your email. Get her. Because the lady was one of the original, as a visionary leader, to establish grandparents raising grandchildren. She also used to be the director for the state of Indiana, so she knew dragging this with her into, in a positive way, to ACF would be positive, and we took her program implemented it in Arizona, it became statute, and now it's part of the Division of Human Services or your child services programs. So I think that there's opportunity to work with Teresa Osborne, but you can go get it from her because it already exists, so why replicate things? And I'm gonna leave it on that. Those were some of the strengths that I saw. One of the other things are, there have been standards on fatherhood initiatives all the way back to one of my good friends, John Martinez, who was a state representative from the state of Connecticut, or Mark Anderson, who was a state representative in Arizona. What I'm trying to say, or my friend, a good friend of mine who passed away, Marco Fireball, assemblyman in California, that's where it all started. Your state legislators, they're the ones that drive it. So if you can work and you can put up with Dr. Rufus Sylvester Lynch, that right there should be a blessing from God. But if you listen to his pragmatic and direct leadership, and then you have other people with your passion, and I appreciate the gentleman with the Army hat who's leaving on me, but you know I'm a retired sergeant major, so I'm just saying, I didn't dismiss, but as you were, but one thing that he said was critical. He needs order and structure, and everyone has their own needs. Some people want to make a decision right away. Some people want to make this an opportunity for us to have that networking, that connection, that engagement. There's other people that are going to be the people who will stay with you no matter what, but there is something to be said about structure and order. So make sure whatever you do, have that opportunity to take in the strength to be structured and order, even if it takes a little bit of time. And with that, my time is up. Oh, well, I mentioned them because, oh, now see, I'm after 5, now I'm going to be, oh, well, they're the two that have funding right now, incarceration and child welfare. Child welfare has a requirement, every state, and this state is failing, every state has to have a child welfare plan to engage fathers. No state has a passing grade. It is a requirement, but it's not being implemented. It's like you telling your son to go throw the trash out, he never does it, but you do it every week. You may say you need to throw the trash out, but you always do it. So the states, all the states, Texas probably has the best engaging, but those two systems. So House Resolution 623 and the Family First Act are both tied to significant resource money for direct services, education, and research. Thank you very much.